Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. We'll be starting in approximately 2 minutes, just giving time for a few more people to join, but welcome. Hope everyone's either had lunch or got lunch in front of them, ready to do a bit of lunch and learn. And looking forward to today talking about search and AI, kicking off in 2 minutes. Hello to those of you just joined. We'll be starting in about 1 minute, just giving people a bit more time to connect, ready for the webinar to kick off. Just make yourselves comfortable, grab a tea, coffee, glass of water, whatever your beverage is, and some food, and we'll be kicking off very shortly. All right, I think we'll get going. We've got a few more people coming through the waiting room, but I know people are pressed for time and we've got quite a lot to get through today. So welcome, thank you for joining and giving up a bit of your day to listen to today's webinar. We've got a very topical webinar today, I think, for most people. Search and AI, everyone's favorite buzzword at the moment. Everything's going artificial intelligence. So we're really excited to be able to talk about this today and share some of what we've been learning and some of what we're seeing in the space. Lots of change. My name's John Dawson, for those that don't know me, Director of Digital Ninjas. And today we've got two brilliant digital strategists from our team. We've got Ryan and Michelle, who are going to talk you through the future of search, as we're calling it, search and AI. So sit tight. I'd encourage everybody to listen sharply, and if you've got questions as we go, please post them in the Q&A and we'll try and answer some of them as we're going along. And then we've got a bit of time at the end, hopefully, just to have a bit of discussion if there's other questions. But thank you for tuning in, and I'll hand over to Ryan and Michelle.
Thanks, John. I'm happy to see everybody here. As John mentioned, if you have any questions, put it in the Q&A as we go.
What do you mean the panel?
I would suggest as well everybody to just mute themselves.
What is that?
To hear a few people. Awesome. All right. So to start off with, in terms of the future of search and AI, we're going to look at how is artificial intelligence impacting search. As you all know, we all do search for something on Google, whether it is finding a recipe, a good how to tie a tie, planning a major purchase, or even just planning a travel. We all are very familiar with how we use Google. But the way we find that information now is changing rapidly and is undergoing the most significant transformation in decades. And it's all driven by artificial intelligence. So our goal today is to really help you navigate this new world, so you can understand what's changing, why it matters, and how you can all adapt, especially in all of your organizations. AI is really impacting search in three core ways, from moving us from a list of 10 blue links to more of a conversational, answer-focused experience. First of all, we have what we call AI overviews. You've probably already seen this already while you've been using Google. So instead of just a list of websites, Google now provides an AI-generated summary at the very top of the results, giving you a quick answer to your questions. So think of it as more so of a helpful assistant that reads a few articles for you and gives you the highlights. Second, we have what we call an AI mode. This is more of an interactive chat-like experience within the search engine itself. It really turns a simple search into a conversation. You can ask a question and then ask a follow-up questions, and then AI will continue the dialogue, helping you explore topics more deeply and naturally. And finally, we have what we call language learning models or LLMs. You probably have heard this terminology come up a few times. These are things like your Google Gemini, your ChatGPT. These are very powerful systems, AI systems that make all of this possible. They're the engine behind the operation of when you talk to AI, when AI responds to you, they're capable of understanding and generating human-like text. So there is a huge rise of LLMs. It just means users are increasingly turning to them directly for answers, which can bypass traditional search engines entirely. So let's look at things a little bit closely on AI overviews. So as I mentioned before, AI overviews summarize things. There are AI generated. This is a key difference from that old feature snippets. So if you all remember, feature snippets will showcase on your Google search and it's just a bit of text. But this is more so, it kind of synthesizes multiple website information into one singular concise summary in your search results that you can just look at and it will just combine all the information together. Their purpose is to provide direct answers. They are designed to satisfy the user's query instantly so that the user doesn't have to click on multiple links to find what they're looking for. And this is a potentially a big issue, but it's a great opportunity for all of us. This is called a zero-click phenomenon, which we'll discuss later on in this webinar. According to Google, these overviews are used billions of times already and have resulted in higher user satisfaction because they streamline the search process. Finally, they can also be multimedia. So it's not just a block of text. It can include bullet points, images, and links to products or services, which creates a rich consolidated experience right there on the search results page. This offers really like new opportunities for brands to gain visibility, but it also means we must adapt our content to be very easily digestible for these new AI systems. So while we've aimed to be the first result, now we also need to be a source that AI chooses to cite over other websites across the internet there. It's really about being an expert that AI trusts. So what is the impact with all of this? This has significant impact on traffic. So some stats to just give you all. A study done by Digital Context Nest shows that many of its publisher members are seeing traffic losses from Google search ranging from 1 to 25%, which is huge. A report from RFs, which is an SEO kind of platform, noted 34.5% drop in click-through rates from the top ranking page on some keywords when an AI overview is present. And then Moore's as well as research kind of showcased that traffic can drop by as much as 18 to 64%. So with all these stats, it's not just theory, it's the reality we are all seeing now. Informational queries, searches that start with how to, what is, are the most affected. So websites that really rely on this type of searches for traffic are seeing the biggest changes. It's very much a stark reminder for all of us that while the impressions, the number of times our content is seen might be stable, we really need to start looking at more other key metrics there. The clicks we use to count on are no longer guaranteed. So it's pretty much what some experts are really calling the great decoupling, where visibility and traffic are no longer directly linked together. The changes are not just coming from Google. The entire AI ecosystem is shifting rapidly. Even as I'm speaking, there's so many new changes already happening. A recent study or analysis done by Profound found that referral traffic from ChatGPT to websites is also dropping significantly. It dropped by 52% in just 1 month. This isn't because fewer people are using ChatGPT. It's because OpenAI, the company that made ChatGPT, has been changing how it provides answers. So instead of sending users to a bunch of websites is now heavily favoring a small handful of answer-first platforms. So think of your Reddit and Wikipedia. These sites are often cited by ChatGPT. They mainly provide detailed conversational and user-generated content that aligns with what that type of AI platform is looking for. The key takeaway here is that AI platforms are becoming content destinations themselves. They're trying to give users a complete experience within their interfaces. So for us, this means the opportunity is no longer just about getting a link. It's about being an authoritative figure that AI chooses to side with to begin with completely. So the good news is when this AI platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini actually sends traffic, it can be highly qualified. So we saw studies done by SEMrush that also showcased that people who visited from an LLM, so like ChatGPT, they found that it is 4.4 times more likely a user to convert coming through that than just your average traditional search. However, there was another study done recently as well that found that the same people who are kind of showing up from an LLM and people who are showing up on organic search, they're about the same kind of person. But this is kind of just to showcase that while volume is low when people are clicking through websites now, but from ChatGPT or from Gemini or any other LLM, the volume may be smaller, but the audience is often very, very highly engaged. So with all these changes, how can we measure success? We know that the traditional search isn't cutting it anymore. The old playbook isn't enough. So as we've discussed briefly, the challenge is the rise of zero-click searches, which leads to that traffic reduction, especially for informational content. We can't just rely on clicks or as our only metric anymore. And this is kind of where things get a little bit tricky. For example, in Google Search Console, if which many of us actually know where we use to measure our organic performance, the clicks and impressions from AI overviews are currently grouped with traditional search results. So it makes it a little bit difficult to kind of see the impact of AI on performances on websites, specifically with Google in Google's ecosystem. We are now actively monitoring how this changes, we're monitoring the changes and all from Google. But we've seen that happen before with Google when they introduced Discover, when they introduced News in the past. So it's only a matter of time for this to be available. However, we can actually get more insights on how AI is impacting our sites through Google Analytics 4. We can create custom reports to isolate traffic coming from Gemini, ChatGPT, and other LLMs. This helps us to see which visitors are being sent to our site, which is a key first step to understand how we can navigate, how we can change our content, and all of that. So the action item for all of us in this webinar is to start setting all of this up right now, start setting up tracking now to get a baseline to see how AI is kind of impacting our websites. We might not capture all the data since Google Search Console isn't tracking impressions separately, but will give us a much better picture of how this new conversational search is affecting our sites. So here's kind of just a practical example of how we can do this. So this screenshot on the slide is a custom report in Google Analytics 4. So to kind of give you an example, first step is to navigate to the report section. So whenever you log into your Google Analytics 4, it's usually on your left-hand side. You want to navigate towards reports and then acquisition, and then you want to choose user or traffic acquisition, but for this case, we'll use user acquisition. Once you're there, you can then change the primary dimension to session source to see a list of where your users are coming from. From here, we can set up a filter to look like traffic is coming from AI sources. So we set up here, we filtered out for GPT. So that's using ChatGPT. This tells us not just if we are getting traffic from ChatGPT, but also the quality. especially with this key metrics here. So this report shows us the key metrics like total users, new users, returning users, and engaged sessions and average engagement time. You can change these metrics around to kind of suit what you're looking for. There's multiple ways to kind of just do custom reports, but this is a very easy and quick way for you to get started into all of this. You can set up similar filters using regex, so regular expressions, to capture a list of AI platforms from your general referral data. But this is very much a critical step towards understanding how our content, how everybody's content is performing in the new era of search.
Great, thanks for going on with that, Michelle. So now, how does AI search impact my content strategy? When it comes to content, it's time to think about what a user should do on your website. Do you have the information that users can't find elsewhere? And do you have content that can't be summarized? And why should the users come back? So this is where I see that SEO has sort of gone full circle back to its traditional SEO roots. It's again about creating content that serves a purpose and gives a user what they want, not just a headline that turns into paragraphs of keyword stuff in and FAQs before you actually realize that your answer isn't on the page. It's just the author asking the same question as you and giving you a bit of food for thought. So you have to answer 4 questions really every time that you produce content. What purpose does your website serve? Are you there to be informative and give downloadable assets? Do you conduct research yourself and you need donations in order to do so? Or are you a resource for those in need of help and advice? And then what makes your offering unique and why should the user scroll and click on your website? So if they are trying to get a user to go past that AI overview, what's actually going to make you stand out? Are you actually giving them the answer that they want? And is it more specific than that overview? And what differentiates you from that competition? And then, is your content informational and cited, or do you provide customer quotes and founder stories? So these are things that can't really be summarized. The customer quotes and founder stories, they're unique to you. Even if they are summarized in an AI overview, then that's still good brand uplift. It's talking specifically about your brand and experiences that others have had with you. And then what will bring the user back to your site? So the usability plays a big role here, as well as how well you've answered their query. But in terms of traditional SEO, as we know, it needs to be about that technical SEO as well, allowing users to seamlessly flow around your site and just make sure that their experience is seamless, essentially. And then you might be asking, what else can I do? Well, the SEO basics. So this is about creating clusters of content. So you can have that central pillar that then leads out to other pillars of content being built until you have sort of an SEO fortress that captures all the relevant queries and delivers a solid experience and a great environment for your users to just get any answers that they want and even more information that they need at certain points. And then it's about embracing that structured data. So this can help with embracing AI overviews as well. It can help those language models read what kind of content you're producing. So with the FAQ page, any donation actions or organization-specific pages, questions about your company can be summarized and answered very easily. And then even with the lack of an AI overview, these pages should, you'd hope, be found at the top of the Google search results pages. And then remember, it's not just about written content. Your digital assets and your community will contribute also. So it's about diversifying your digital marketing portfolio. With platforms like TikTok also stepping into the SEO space, and other platforms like Twitter and Reddit often appearing in Google results. Your SEO strategy is now more of an all-encompassing digital strategy across different channels. So it's considering how your SEO strategy will adapt and change to TikTok and how your use of Twitter and Reddit can have sort of indirect impact on your SEO just because of the authority of those websites. And then other things that you can do, so like building a brand. Another good way to work with AI in search platforms is to avoid it entirely. You can use other channels to encourage more direct traffic. It may be a longer customer journey in reaching people with cold ads and warming them up to receiving branded emails and direct SMS, but those users will then be your biggest advocates. These users will likely answer questions on your behalf on things like Reddit and Quora, and even leave you nice reviews, you'd hope. And then this is where you can also advertise yourself on platforms like Reddit with your brand and help build out your brand name. And then it's about retaining these customers. So retaining these users with inspirational and engaging content. You can utilize AI yourself with RAGs, so retrieval augmented generation AI, which is pretty much chatbots and Q&A systems. This allows users to essentially use your site as their own search engine within your website. It's the extra steps that you're trusting a user to go through, but if you've built that relationship with your customer, then they're usually more than happy to do so. They know that they can find more relevant and more trusted information directly on your site rather than going to Google first and maybe trusting an AI over you or not. And then what about traditional SEO? So again, I think SEO is now more important than ever. It has sort of gone full circle back into traditional SEO. The page structure needs to be easily read and crawled, so this will help with just generic SEO, but then also with those AI overviews. Specific content should answer specific questions, or at least be the reference point for those answers. And then in terms of creating content that can be shown on your website, this means stepping back into a traditional SEO again. So focusing on creating things like case studies, customer reviews and experiences, and conducting your own research. These are all unique to you. They can't be created elsewhere, and they can be summarized, but you've probably done that yourself in the introduction to those research pieces. News updates and inspirational content, again, they can be summarized, but only with specific branded searches. So if anyone's looking for what people think of a certain brand, there may be an AI overview that gives a general consensus. But again, this is indirect branded traffic, which is great. And creating all of this content means that you become the source for the truth, whether it's directly from yourself or not. The content that you're creating is about you, so it has to be correct, really. And then into the unknown. So what's next for AI in marketing and SEO? So what will happen next? Whether we like it or not, AI is taking over. Like when I think back to about 2 years ago, when AI started to really have an impact in our lives, I don't think anyone expected it to be so prominent as it is now. It's not going away, so we just have to adapt, really. AI will answer those questions and replace search results. So there will naturally be a reduction in informational content being produced. When it's not ranked on Google, companies will just stop producing it, really. And then it means that AI models are being trained on that more trusted content. So research pieces and write-ups will always be produced. They're paid for by universities, governments, things like that. They're always going to exist, and this is what's going to train AI models. They'll start becoming smarter, answering questions quicker, more easily, and with more in-depth information. But you will see less pages of articles by agencies like ourselves and service providers outlining what like SEO or the service that provides is and how that will impact certain industries. Because producing content like that for Google essentially will become highly competitive and not always worth it in the end, when you can put a lot more effort into diversifying your portfolio and focusing on other things like creating content in the form of videos for TikTok. So you see this a lot with lots of different service providers, especially within industries like ourselves and within industries like legal. You wouldn't usually think that they can produce a video to show off what they do, but with the creativity now and obviously high competition on Google, it's an easier way to stand out by showcasing who you are as a brand and then building that relationship with customers before they actually look into what you're doing. And then there's other forms of communicating with your customers, like on LinkedIn through carousels. And then this means that you can prioritize all of your core messaging and your offering for your website. You don't need to build it out as like a secondary blog or things like that. And then the last point is paid ads in AI overviews. So this is something that's started rolling out in the States, and I think it'll be quite interesting to see how it works en masse. It feels like there's a lot of speculation on how it can be at the moment, but it also feels like a bit of a bribe that you can pay your way into an AI overview, whether it's being the source for that overview or not, like swaying the topic your way through a certain article or a certain subject. And it could potentially be problematic based on sensitive and political topics. But obviously, at the moment, Google has their own ad policies that stop you advertising for certain topics. We can imagine something similar. But then, even if it's sponsored content below an AI overview yourself, you can imagine this being sort of like a new style of guerrilla marketing, where an advertiser can just overtake indirect competition. Like, for example, if you search on Google, how can I drive a car? They may be the AI overview, but then the sponsored content below that can very simply be, you don't drive a car, you just book an Uber. And it opens up a whole new creative way to market your brand, I think. I'm sure we'll see the limitations, especially with everything being up in the air at the moment and whilst they're in the testing phases, but all we can think is worst case, best case, and then there will be the actual use case that we'll hopefully see next year. And then what does all this mean for SEO and digital marketing as a whole? So the impact right now that we're seeing, so AI has already been implemented in a lot of different marketing platforms. We've adapted to it quite well, and I guess not even viewed some of it as AI. So there are still some PMAX skeptics, but pretty much every account that we manage now, we will have a PMAX campaign within that. Even with the Google Grant accounts, we can now run PMAX campaigns, and this is pretty much Google pushing its AI platform. Everything that you run through AI helps AI learn, so obviously the more it gets content pushed through it, the better their platform becomes. We find that PMAX has been pretty good at driving top of funnel activity, but more recently it is also just converting quite well. So you can use existing data and just let the platform itself learn your customers and their search terms, and it'll expand off of that. Thankfully, we can see what those search terms are as well now, so you can help the model learn itself by adding keywords to like a negative keyword list and then narrowing down your audience. And then also in the form of broad match keywords. So having these included in a campaign means that your search campaigns can be shown to terms that AI has deemed relevant. So AI has sort of forced SEO to be a bit more about relevancy. And expanding on that, it's just, I don't know, looking into it itself and getting you shown a bit more for terms that you wouldn't really think of, because obviously AI has done a lot of learning and probably knows a lot more about the topics than you do yourself. So expanding your broad match search terms means that you can reach a wider audience that maybe you didn't really know existed, or you didn't know what they were actually searching when you reverse engineer a search. And then there's looking at the tracking. So this is where it's sort of negatively impacted marketing. You can use things like ChatGPT to put together a whole holiday plan, a lifestyle plan, things like that. And then at the end of it, you'll click through to the holiday website, book your holiday, and they have no idea where you've come from. They know that you've gone to ChatGPT, but they don't know what you've typed in, like whether you've searched for a cheap holiday in Bali or the best holiday in Bali or a 3-day holiday in Bali, anything like that. You don't really know how users have found your website. And that should hopefully change in the future, we'd hope, as these platforms start communicating with each other. We might find that there's different APIs that you can have integrate with Google to at least pull certain keywords or summaries from those searches, and then it just helps us as marketers put together content that we know will be read by those LLMs, and we can answer those queries. But then on the other side, AI is also helping marketing with things like LLMs, where you can ask it to put something together for you. So there's putting together different marketing briefs that get sent over to us. Sometimes AI is very helpful there. And then in the same sense, when we're sending back like a content ideation or graphic designer brief, we can very quickly run that through an AI model, and it can generate 5 different examples of imagery that we'd sort of want in the campaign. And then that's a pretty good reference point for any graphic designer to create something in the vision that we have. And then there's the impact on businesses, charities, and not-for-profits. So there's the risk of diminishing new brand awareness, which is probably the biggest risk with AI searches at the moment. So with zero-click information, there's the risk of having less brand awareness, but then there's also, if you're an early adopter and utilize it well, there's the potential of increased brand awareness. So if you're not in an AI overview, then your brand is even further down the page. Even if you're used to being ranked within the top 3 searches, the chances are if someone's on their mobile, you're not even on their screen because the AI overview has taken up the majority of that. And then you'll have sponsored content below that. So if you're not in the AI overview, then it's going to have quite a big impact on how users are finding your site. And if you are in the AI overview, then you're referenced, you have a direct link to your website right next to it, a direct link to the exact page that's been referenced. Your brand name is there, so even if they don't click through, you have that indirect brand uplift. But then obviously that's where the increased competition has come in. And then there's donation automation. So AI agents have, well, actually, this is the next 2 points: shopping and API access and donation automation. So as I've said, some people will have AI plan out different things for them, whether it's a holiday or their day-to-day, really. AI agents are already helping organize people's schedules to the point where it tells them where to go for a healthy lunch, what time to go to sleep, what to have in the morning when they wake up to fuel their body for the day, and they'll give them specific brands based on whatever their query was. I think this will continue to have an influence throughout their days, like tell them where to shop, which charities align with their values, and who they should be donating to. Also things like which fundraisers are coming up, which ones are nearby, which can be close to the office, or things for the office to participate in. Things like this will be automated based on past behavior of the consumer, but also mixed with whatever query that they've put into the agent. And then marketplaces and directories, as a result, they'll just become less influential. The big players will start to take over a lot more. They'll have a lot more control in the shopping spaces, like Google and Amazon. They're already dominating, but you can imagine that taking up a lot more as well. And as we see life automation continue, This should help build like regular givers and things like that. So anyone that wants to donate at certain times of year, then they'll be building that into their lifestyle, and AI models will be helping generate that as well. But this could mean, with their changing values, it could mean that they're changing charities if it's automated based on what your searches are. If you've gone a bit rogue in the last month and searched some things that are out of interest and don't generally align with your values, then you could accidentally start donating to a charity that maybe you don't want to support. And then, so what does all of this mean? What can charities and not-for-profits do? So we've talked about the challenges, a new search landscape where clicks are harder to come by, but this isn't a dead end. In fact, for mission-driven organizations like Charities, this new era presents a massive opportunity. The key is to adapt our content strategy to focus on the one thing AI can replicate: authentic human experience. And I think Michelle can cover off the rest of this one then.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So we're going to outline these 4 key strategies that can help charities not only survive, but thrive in the age of AI search. So first, let's look at the power of storytelling. Most of you are already great at already doing this. You already do this within your organizations. We just need to make sure we are creating stories that showcase your unique impact, and wherever possible, include first-hand testimonials from the people you help, your donors, your beneficiaries, etc. Because AI is very excellent at summarizing facts, but it struggles with genuine lived experiences. So content that includes personal narratives and testimonials is a perfect way to demonstrate what Google calls experience and trustworthiness, which are very key components. So user-generated content like this is also highly trusted by human audiences, which makes it a powerful tool for credibility within your organizations. It's a way to prove your impact, that this is both compelling and impossible for a machine to replicate. Second, a powerful strategy is to create case studies and original research. AI models are trained on existing information. They cannot create new verifiable data. This means that when a charity and nonprofit, your organization publishes its own original research, for example, let's say a report on the effectiveness of a specific program or a new data on a social issue, you can really become the authoritative source for that information. It's very unique. So that kind of unique expert level content that an AI will seek out and cite gives your organization a massive visibility, not just only for SEO, but then also when you are pairing that up with what Ryan mentioned before, your PR pathways and your other kind of channels there. It's really an effective way to establish your brand as a leader in your field. It's a critical part of strengthening your overall authority across the board. The data you publish can become the go-to reference, as mentioned, for journalists, for researchers, and other AI systems, all of which will help you build your reputation. Thirdly, similar to testimonials, we need to focus on sharing authentic volunteer experiences. These stories aren't just great for recruitment, they're goldmine for building that emotional connection and trust with your audiences. Think of it as a form of social proof. When an AI or person sees content from a real person talking about a genuine experience, it signals authenticity and trustworthiness, which these AI systems are actively looking for right now. This kind of content is also most likely to resonate with with your audience, driving higher engagement and deeper connection to your causes. So by highlighting the real-world stories of your volunteers, you create that powerful human-centric narrative that really just stands out from your generic algorithm-driven content there. Finally, we have to realize that search is no longer just about text. AI is now very multimodal, meaning it can process and understand different types of content, including videos, images, your other visuals. So it's very, very powerful and more important now than ever. So a video showing your impact in action or powerful photo from a program tells a story in a way that words alone cannot tell. They add visuals, add like that layer of authenticity that text can't replicate. So it's better to somehow see that person in a more heightened state of emotion, as an example. They're also very hard for AI to fully summarize, to fully capture that essence of what you are trying to convey, which really may encourage users to click through to your site for a full story. So just remember to always optimize whatever you have as text with your visuals, and to make sure that they have descriptive file names and alternative text to help AI systems understand the context of your videos, of your images, and your other visual content. So in this new world, your strategy isn't to fight the algorithm, it's not to fight AI, it's really to create content that is unique, authentic, and valuable, that the algorithm has no choice but to feature it. So by focusing on the human stories and unique data that defines your mission, you can really cut through the noise and ensure your organization is recognized as the expert in your field.
And then with all of that being said, it's also good to create the content that fits with all of these AI models. So with things like Siri, Google, and Alexa, they all want to give you the best experience based on what they think is the best experience. And that will usually be down to from the content that they give you. So some people put a lot of thought and attention into what they do. Others like to have the thinking on the others. Having good quality content that allows these search engines to answer, well, to see you as the answer to these queries means that you can do that thinking for them. This requires good quality traditional SEO, create relevant and impactful content that's structured well, it answers everything that's been set out, and clearly states the actions that you want to answer. Such as things like donations, research, organization questions, like having those set out in your headline and then creating the content that matches that means that these models can easily read your content and provide the user with an accurate and, well, good experience, but an accurate representation of their question, like their query. Starting to work on this now means that you can be part of that AI model training, and then in the long term, you'll end up reaping the rewards when the competition increases. So while AI has been around for a couple of years now, it's still learning, it's always going to be learning, and we're starting to see it more and more in our day-to-day lives. As we see it with Google, it's still quite early on. So if you want to be in those AI overviews, it's about creating the content that's going to be sourced and referenced and showing yourself as a trustworthy source and someone that can be referenced. The way I like to view it is like how Wikipedia used to be. You had to be a trusted user to create a reference or a source on Wikipedia and to edit a page. It wants to be like an online encyclopedia, and this is essentially what AI is trying to do as well. So becoming that trusted source and having your visibility should increase in the AI space.
So we have compiled a checklist for everybody. So you probably have seen this QR code on almost every single slide. So you can view that search, you can view your free search and AI readiness checklist just to check if your organization is already doing some things to get started with this, or to catch up with what everybody's already started to do. But thank you so much. This is all for our webinar today. We will leave time for Q&As. So if anybody has Q&As now, I believe this is the time to answer your questions. I know the team has already been answering some questions within the Q&A chat, but if anybody wants to kind of raise their hand for any questions, feel free to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle and Ryan, and thanks everybody for listening. I think we've answered a few questions in the Q&A. So as Michelle says, last opportunity to ask any other questions. Otherwise, you can always follow up with Ryan and Michelle directly via emails as they're provided on the screen. But hopefully everybody took something from that. I'm just seeing one question come in. Oh, it's a thank you. Okay, no question there. Thanks, Anita. Thank you to you too, and thanks to everybody else. Yeah, a few more thank yous coming through. Thanks everybody for listening. I think we'll wrap it up there. We'll share the recording of the webinar afterwards as well in case people want to recap, because I know there's a lot of content there. But thanks, Ryan and Michelle. Great job.